Rahul, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out for us. It's an
My pleasure.
absolute pleasure to be talking to you today.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Supriya. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Rahul. So, Rahul, I was really looking forward to talking to you today, right? Because the world's digital backbone is being rewired as we speak, right? Because AI has moved on from being a trend to a infrastructure essential, right? And this in turn is reshaping data centers, accelerating fiber demand, and putting unprecedented pressure on the interconnect network across the world,
Mm,
right?
mm.
So experts also say that this will lead to a fiber renaissance, and this presents both an inflection point and an opportunity for STL. So
Sure.
this is why I was looking to have this conversation with you today, because every organization that we speak to is riding on an AI wave, right? That is
That's
what
right.
they're claiming at least. And
True.
even though NVIDIA is making the chips, the bottlenecks are becoming the interconnects, right?
That's right.
So, would it be possible for you to quantify that how much of your recent growth is directly attributable to AI-led high-density fiber demand?
Mm.
And how is this reflecting on your profile? Has there been a shift in your profile because of this?
Sure. Sure. No, very good question to start off with, first of all, Supriya. Clearly, what we are seeing is a massive uptake on fiber demand thanks to the AI-led data centers. Of course, the FTTH networks and tower fiberization continues at its own steady pace. And aren't we all always surprised that every time we kind of write off fiber demand, it kind of comes back and comes back stronger with every wave. So clearly, yes, it seems to be a very strong, steady demand over the next decade or so. Now, obviously, people are talking about 15 years, 10 years, 7 years. Um, Time will tell, but definitely, I see with the data now multiplying, which was earlier multiplying at about 4 to 5 years, now coming to 2 to 3 years. So definitely, the world is generating a lot more data, and you need more storage, more capacity to utilize that data, so to use that for AI. So yes, uh, it seems to be having a consistent demand. We are also obviously working very closely to fulfill this demand. If you look at our results, we have clearly shared that almost 22-23% of our revenues have now started to come from data center business and basically enterprise business, which is two parts of the same coin. And we do have our commitments to our telco partners as well, the government networks, the broadband networks. So we continue to have long-term relationships, which we continue to fulfill as well. So clearly, it's a balancing act which we need to do. We continue to look at expanding our capacity. In fact, one of the very few companies which continues to expand our capacities further. Also, what favors us as STL, Supriya, is us being a fully backward forward integrated company. So as you already know, and you've seen the plant as well, one of the very few companies, and only in India, to make our own glass preform and fiber. So clearly, that gives us as STL a distinct advantage, because when the shortages happen, people start consuming their own glass. They have enough demand, internal demands, rather than sell to other people. So that really helps us, and that also is something what our discerning customers are aware of. They are working closely with us, uh, not just on interconnect, but outside data center, inside data center, fire-rated products, and so on and so forth. So yes, the product pipeline is being prepared. We are obviously supplying to some of these hyperscalers today, especially more, as you said, about the interconnect, which is becoming a big challenge and bottleneck. So we are obviously working very closely to solve for that as well.
Thank you so much for that great overview, sir. And yes, I did visit the plant, and you seem to be way ahead, of everybody else in this field. However, AI data center designs are also changing rapidly, right? And the industry is already talking about the shift to co-packaged optics, even though
Right.
it's at a very nascent stage.
Yes.
So, is there somewhere a risk that the fiber-heavy architecture that you're
Mm,
betting on today
mm,
may become the copper of tomorrow? And
mm,
how would you future-proof a capital-intensive manufacturing footprint against, rapid tech obsolescence?
mm. Now, again, my 2 cents on that. Today, the biggest challenge is time, right? Today, everyone is looking at uh, doing more data centers quickly, sooner than what they could have done. Everyone I talk to is behind the targets of rolling out data centers. We see a pent-up demand in the US market, but then we're also seeing a lot of localization of libraries, which is generating the demand as well. With regards to fiber optics, I still personally feel this is something which is the most efficient way of connecting and transmitting data. So continue. Yes, people may look for alternatives primarily if there is a large shortage of fiber optics or fiberglass. Other than that, I do not see anybody actually looking at any other alternative. And because, see, again, it's one of the most cost efficient, energy efficient, and most reliable source to use. So kind of checks all the boxes. So there's no pertinent need for anybody to look at something else. But yes, technology, the good thing about, or the amazing thing about technology is that it evolves and keeps evolving. And companies like us who are at the forefront of technology in this space would obviously continue to innovate and also evolve as business keeps growing. Even on the fiber space, there's a lot happening right now. Not on the cable space, there's a lot of things happening. Connectorization space, there's a lot happening. So clearly, the demand for packing more fibers within a smaller diameters is going up. So whether it's rollable ribbons today, which is again, we were one of the first to do it in the world, whether it's low dia glass, bend insensitive glass, all that continues to drive the innovation and demand as well. So yes, as the industry progresses, I'm very confident that STL is strongly placed to address all the tech challenges that may be thrown at us by our discerning customers.
Absolutely, sir. And I must say, I got to see some of your innovations, and it's truly wonderful how you're making, from SAD to broadband, and I'm really looking forward to covering that more. So, sir, you launched your data center portfolio recently, right? And you have set a target that the enterprise plus data center segment should be around 25% of your revenue.
Yes.
So, how has this expanded portfolio and especially the data center offerings strengthened your overall transformation journey so far?
A very good question again, Supriya. As I said, we've been in the data center enterprise space for a while now, but it's only about a year or so ago, if my memory serves me right, when we committed ourselves fully to create a full-fledged portfolio to address all data center needs. Every day, you have products being rolled out for the customers in this space. Now, good thing about this business is if you look at the hyperscalers, there are few. The products and the specs are very, very standardized, but they are high fiber counts, low latency, densely packed solutions. So that and of course some of the connectorized solutions, fire rated solutions for inside data centers. So all that continues to be our priority. As I mentioned earlier, we already see almost a quarter of our revenue starting to come from that business as late as the last quarter. I actually see in the next year or so, maybe 12 to 18 months time frame, this business will become as big as our telco business / broadband business, because clearly the kind of investments going into the data center space, we're talking about $1 trillion getting in, being deployed into data center business, and then out of which almost 20-30% of that being the fiber and connectivity solutions. So clearly the market potential is immense, and again, as I said, we are taking the advantage of capitalizing on that and creating a strong business there.
So, sir, one more thing I wanted to gain your perspective on is that, STL is a local company that is manufacturing globally, right?
Yes.
And the geopolitical situation has been so volatile, especially over the past 3 years. And this in turn tends to have an impact on manufacturing and, operations. So firstly, I'd like to sort of understand that the Western countries are aggressively pushing the China plus one strategy, which in theory should benefit STL. However, we see very aggressive pricing from these Chinese players in non-US markets like Europe and Southeast Asia, for instance. So how do you defend your margins in these territories without, of course, engaging in a destructive price war?
Of course. See, one, I clearly see STL as a true Indian multinational, if I put it that way. We have two plants in Italy, one in US, one in China, and of course 7 plants, which some of them you saw yesterday and today in India. So clearly, what we have is what I keep talking about is a global approach where we are globally present in over 100 countries, but we also have a local manufacturing in the regions to support our customers. Uh, so clearly, with the ever changing global dynamics as we see today, it definitely in the long run puts STL in a very strong position, because we even saw that during COVID times when supply chain was challenged. We had factories in Europe which would supply to our customers in Europe. We had factories in US which would supply to our customers in US, and of course India kind of stays as a mothership, which also fulfills a majority of the demand. To your second part of the question, we never see ourselves as price warriors. We are not a company which prides in selling low quality, low price products. So that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful, not just in the Western world, but globally. Uh, how we've done that, and I always tell my customers, is that I do not come and do a catalog sell. I do not ask my teams to go and sell through a catalog. We pride in something which is a very unique proposition for us, and many people in India probably do not know about that. STL has a very unique way of engaging with our customers, where we go and solve our customers' problems. I know it may sound like a very fancy thing to say, but actually we've done this, and our customers probably can vouch for it, where we go to our largest customers and work very cohesively with them. Our tech teams, even sometimes our tech teams would go and base themselves in their R&D centers, and we actually co-create solutions which can solve um, maybe a very, very small problem to a massive network challenge which they have today. And that's exactly what we're doing today. That's exactly what we're doing even with at least one big hyperscaler today. And that's something which puts us in a very different light compared to some of our peers.
So, sir, since we're speaking about the global perspective, right, I was hoping to gather your thoughts on America as well, because a lot has changed after the Trump administration, and the BEAD program, which was in theory in 2021, has started seeing deployment since 2024, right? And this has in turn led to a Buy America mandate. So, how has this worked out for your South Carolina plant? Because you opened a plant there in 2023. So, how has it worked out over there?
One still, Supriya, to make it very clear, yes, bead still is a very small part of the overall America's demand today. Today, as I said, American demand is primarily driven by large telco deployment and also the hyperscaler deployment. So these are two key industries driving the demand for fiber optic. It's an advantage for STL to be locally present in US market, but there's a bigger more opportunity which exists outside the bead and buffer.
So, sir, since we have the global perspective sorted, right, I'd like to come to the India story, right? I mean, the digital India ambition is increasing, and we have projects like the BharatNet, and
Yes.
the government is paying a lot more emphasis on the rural connectivity part of it, right?
Yes.
So, if I had to ask you, where does STL see the most exciting opportunity in building India's digital infrastructure?
Again, very good question. We've seen the BharatNet, tenders being allotted. Clearly, this would trigger the next wave of fiber deployment and demand in the Indian market. It's also very important because India had that digital advantage, if I may put it that way, and we do not want to be laggards in that race. We want to continue to be at the forefront of that. Yes, mobile revolution definitely helped bringing internet in everyone's hand, uh, but strong fiber connectivity is something which will be more important for overall uplift and growth. We have seen data across the world where a strong fiber penetration ended up adding even up to 0.5% of the GDP. I'm sure you know these numbers. So that's something which we are very, very excited about. Not just that, we are also, again, within India, we are seeing a huge demand coming from the data center space, because again, as I said earlier, if the libraries are localized, which will be eventually, we are already looking at a lot of announcements from many large global companies and Indian companies talking about massive, massive data center deployment. Then we also see, as you know, STL has been working with our defense networks also to help, provide strong network backbone to our all three defense forces. That we see as a strong potential as well. And then, of course, I'm sure you just recently covered the news of us launching the first multi-core fiber in India, which again I believe would be a strong opportunity for enterprise and even some of the tech leading industries in India, which will help solve some of the challenges. So yes, clearly, India is our home, and India is where the heart is, and that's where we obviously are always focused. Looking at clearly, not just selling as is products, but bringing in the latest and greatest, and probably something which even the world has not yet seen to our Indian customers is something which is our priority.
Right, sir. So, sir, you mentioned BharatNet as well, right? So, BharatNet, of course, it's a huge project. However, what we hear of in these projects is they come with the longer cycles, and there are delays. So, as a CEO, if I can ask you, how would you balance the patriotic duty of building India's digital spine along with the fiduciary duty of protecting the growth of your company?
No, I do not see both these things as counterintuitive to each other. They are definitely go hand in hand. Today, uh, if you're helping build your nation, that doesn't mean that you're not doing business. You are conducting business. You're doing conducting strong ethical business. And of course, with this government, we've seen the transparency has even gone further up. Everything is digitized now. So clearly, there is opportunity for serious players to work and actually be a partner in the government's digitization vision. So clearly, we don't see a challenge there. We actually see an opportunity for us there. And in terms of timelines, yes, rural broadbands, and I can tell you with my experience of almost working and seeing networks across the world, government funded projects, and you just talked about Beat Baba as well, are always slow to uptake because these are rural broadbands. They are not easy to deploy. The span lengths are much longer. The ROIs are much lesser. But then they do happen at a certain pace. And some of the roadblocks which this government has helped us clear, it will definitely help speed up BharatNet deployment. And I'm very, very confident that we will see these projects conclude even faster than the stipulated times.
So that's a very good perspective that you shared, sir. Thank you so much for that. And STL's 85% of STL's revenues come from global companies, right? Sorry, the global demand. And the remaining 15% is from India. And telcos form a large part of that 15%. So India's telcos have rolled out 5G at record speed, right? However, the use cases still haven't come in, and
Yes.
the monetization hence remains a challenge for them. So if their capex cycles dry up in the upcoming year to focus on the ROI aspect of it, what would that mean for STL? And could you tell us if there is a plan B if the domestic telco spends hit a cliff?
Yeah. So clearly, one, we've kind of de-risked ourselves by being globally present. We proudly sell in about 110 countries, the last I checked. That helps us because every market globally, as we all know, this is a cyclical business. So you'll have your up cycles, your down cycles. And being present internationally and globally, it kind of helps you kind of ride some of the waves you may have. Some markets like Europe was going very strong post-COVID, and we saw that the growth coming from there. US now backed by hyperscalers, FTTH rollouts, and 5G networks is clearly driving a big demand there. Uh, India has been slow and steady over the last few years, but now you see even if the telcos may or may not slow down, that obviously I cannot predict, but definitely BharatNet has taken the lead there. As I said, the data centers, we've not even started there. And when you're right, our 15% revenue, majority of it actually comes from telcos. Data centers announcements have started to happen, the monies have started to flow in, and definitely there'll be requirement for networks. And then personally, if you ask me, the networks which are there in India, they may or may not be enough for catering to the need of enterprise customers, hyperscale customers. So you will see a lot of private networks being deployed, even through the telcos or independently by the companies to support this, as a backbone to these hyperscale demand. So definitely, I actually am more bullish on India than I was probably a year ago. So definitely the market seems to be turning. Demand definitely climbing up. And again, if you talk about the telcos today, they continue to deploy at a steady pace because they also understand there is a lot of ground to be covered, a lot of customers to be covered. Tower fiberization, as we all know, is still probably 10-12% is the last number I checked, which is again much lower than what the global averages are in any of the developed countries. 30 to 40%, or even now 50% is what we started talk about. So there is enough and more potential, or if I say there's enough juice in the Indian market as well.
So, sir, the companies across the world, right, they're all moving towards an AI ready, cloud first digital infrastructure, right? So, keeping this perspective in mind, what would you say is the long term vision for STL, both in India and globally?
So again, great question. Clearly, the way we look at it, our business is now clearly divided into four verticals internally. One of them is the fiber and glass business, which is a core business and core strength, as I said earlier in the beginning of our interview. And we continue to focus there in our ambitions to be one of the top three globally in the fiber optic space. Then there is the connectivity solutions vertical, where where we have now seen some steady growth over the last 3 to 4 years ever since we entered this business. Then is the data center business, which I talked about, data center enterprise business, which is now almost a quarter of our business, and I see that almost becoming as big as the traditional telco business or the broadband business. And last but not the least, we have our copper business as well, which continues to be at a steady pace. There's demand within the data centers and even with the enterprise customers on the copper side as well. So clearly, with riding on these four pillars of strategy, we see our business, growing strength to strength. We clearly see it's a happy place to be in. That's the way I look at it. There is strong market demand and potential. We have the right assets and the people across the world to deliver against that. And of course, we have the financials to keep investing and growing on that.
It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I have to say it was so wonderful meeting everyone, from the STL family, because not just are you customizing solutions based on customer demand, each and every one of the STL family members are extremely proud to be catering to the demand of the world, and to be building that digital backbone that is empowering everybody's network ambitions. And it was absolutely wonderful meeting each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Supriya. And I will just leave you with a thought. The plant you are in is one of the most modern plants in the world in our industry. It's the youngest plant, 29 years average age. So it's again, we have a very young workforce, and it's one of the plants which has the best, or as a business, we have the best diversity ratios as well. So you will see a lot of female employees and cross diversity you'll see. So yeah, thank you so much for actually taking time out and visiting our plants. You're most welcome to come back whenever your time permits. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.